to another video. We are here at Steel City Auto Spa. I've shot tons of videos here before, so if you haven't watched them, go watch them. But today we are here to talk about the car that I believe you should buy, heck, I might buy, in roughly 5 years. Let's go check it out. But first, let me give you a reason as to why. So I'll check back in with you in a second.
Let's start with a little history lesson. The Lotus Exige, produced from 2000 and on, I think was a misunderstood car. Newly arrived in the United States, people just simply had no purpose for it. Due to this, a massive depreciation took place, which caused cars currently and past tense just to hover around $40,000 mark. In fact, you can find some really good deals, especially on Facebook, prior to now, when these cars are going for really good prices. Searching on Bring a Trailer, take a look at this one here. A 2007 S model with 3,000 original miles, and it's 2007. Now this one sold in 2019, so do the math. There were some people out here protecting these cars. If we take a look back to 2007, when these MSRPs came out, they were somewhere around the $60,000 mark. And if we convert that to today's dollars, somebody spent $88,000 in today's money on this car that was new to the United States at the time. Now to make this video simple, we're going to use 2024 values as the year has concluded. If we take a look, this car was sold in 2019, right? And we convert that to today's money, this car sold for $51,000, which means the owner of this car drove it 3,000 miles and took a massive $37,000 hit on this car. And ever since then, these values have been trending around the $40,000 mark. And again, like I said earlier, you can find them lower. And as you can see, values have just been trending around this $40,000 mark. And like I said before, you could find them cheaper than that months back. In 2009, Lotus came up with a massive facelift for the US market and overseas. The Lotus Emira, in my opinion, was a great looking car and still is a great deal to this day. Now, these MSRPs at the time were touching six-figure marks. But as time goes on, you can see a trend here emerging, and these cars took another massive depreciation hit. Take a look at this. Another S model example, a 2012 with 8,000 miles on it. Again, somebody kept it, didn't drive it, hoarded it, and then sold it come 2024. Take a look here. The MSRP on this car was $91,000, and that's in 2012. Now, if we convert that to today's money, we can see that this is a highly optioned car, and somebody spent $124,000 on this car out the door, which means if we take that sale of $50,000 or $50,500, somebody took a massive $74,000 depreciation hit. And again, this car was barely used. Now, I'm sure by now you know exactly where I'm going with this video, so let's take a look at this thing.
Here she is, a 2025 Lotus Emira. Honestly, I think Lotus finally did it right. With the Exige, no one really understood it. With the Evora, I think the front end was beautiful, but the rear end needed a little tweaking, if you will. Which, don't get me wrong, it's still a great price, but the Emira finally got the good front end and the good back end. This one's actually a 2025, so which I didn't know prior to making this video until today, that they actually partnered with Mercedes. So there are two options on this car. One of which you can go with the OG Toyota engine, which proven to be reliable, has okay horsepower, but now upgraded was the Mercedes engine. So this one, unfortunately, was not optioned with the 6-speed manual. This one has the DCT. I gotta imagine it drives real well. I mean, we had the tires off, the wheels off, looking at the suspension components, and they all seem pretty legit. So I'm sure this car drives fantastic. Honestly, digging the interior. Not sure if I'd spec mine this way with the brown and the blue, but this color is pretty glorious. The boys here did a great job at bringing the flake to life. When I first saw it, I wasn't sure how quite bright it was, but up close under the flashlight, after it's all polished and ceramic, it really does pop. So Definitely a clean spec. I mean, it just touched down here in Pittsburgh the other day. Has 60 miles on it. So I'm sure the owner is very excited to drive it. Unfortunately, it is dumping snow, so not sure if he's going to be dailying it or not, but I'm sure it will be enjoyed. Walking around the car further, I really love this back end. Like, with the doors closed and the views of the side mirrors is just amazing. In terms of storage space, I know there used to be a back seat in the prior model, even though it wasn't much of a seat. Here, you have just a little storage compartment. And then if we take a look around back, we have the rear deck lid. Unfortunately, you can't see the engine anymore like you did in the Exige and so forth. But small little trunk space. But at the end of the day, a car of this size, what more could you ask for us outside of groceries, maybe a gym bag, etc.? So I think it's a strong contender for a daily driver or even a fun car here in the future, or even right now if you don't want to wait. Now, unfortunately, because I do not own this car, which speaking of, I haven't met the owner either. If you're watching this, great car, by the way, and would love to do a future video on it with you. I do have the keys, so can't drive in the snow. However, what we can do is start it up. So let's take a listen. Hey, boys and girls, this is why you rock two mics. So hopping on in. Beautiful interior. I love the Alcantara on the wheel. A little confined in here, but it's to be expected with the size of this vehicle. But honestly, pretty spacious at the same time. I love how modernized it is. Looking at the older Exiges, etc., it seems very plasticky, very tight and confined. With the Alcantara and leather, well, I do like the upgrades. I honestly think this is the best iteration of the Lotus this far. But either way, enough of me talking. Let's get to the point. Pop open the start button here, foot on the brake. I'm loving the induction noise right here. I didn't notice it until we turned the engine off, but I gotta imagine this car sounds nutty once you're on it. At first startup, it's nothing crazy, nothing that's gonna wow you. But in terms of aftermarket, I'm sure there's gonna be plentiful of options. And on top of that, it may sound great as is, but we'll see if I can plug a video or two of it being used properly. I'm gonna let these boys get back to work, but let's check back in with myself back at home and tell you exactly why I think you should buy this car.
Now we take a look at what we learned earlier in this video. And again, I understand that they're just unique examples that I picked. However, I did not look long for them, and you can find tons of examples like them. But they were just used the basis for this video. But you can see, in the Exige, somebody lost $36,000 over 12 years on their investment, right? And in the Evora, over the same time span, 12 years, somebody lost $73,000 on their investment. And again, that's on today's standards, so you're not going to see that from sale price to sale price. However, how does this apply to today's market? What I learned from this video is that we need to figure out when the depreciation factor, in terms of that median line, when it hits, because we're not going to wait 12 years to buy this car. We want to find out when we can buy this car at somewhat peak depreciation, buy it, hold on to it, drive the piss out of it, and not lose much money at all. So we shop around and look at the Lotus Emira market, right? Again, that's from 2010 to 2021. And we also take a look at the averages from loss of depreciation that we saw earlier. We want to figure out how long until I get to that depreciation hit. Well, if we take the $30,000 loss and the $70,000 loss and also look at the price trends, I think it's safe to say in today's money, once the car loses half of its MSRP value or close to it, I think is a fair purchase point price based off looking at this. So if we look here around the 2021 to 2022 timeframe, we want to try to find the highest example in terms of model year and look at when that is around the 50% margin, right? So we can see there's a 2016 for 51. That's not quite around the 5 years. 2014, Here's a 17, right? So here's a 17 sold in 2021, almost 2022. And this car is sold for $67,000. Original MSRP, as we saw earlier, probably around $100,000. And if we look at the current market for, say, 2017s, see if we could find one here. 2012, 2011, 2016. Here's a 2017 for 61, okay? 2017, 61, and then 2017, 70. So somebody bought this in 2021, enjoyed it for 3.5, 4 years, and you're still at the median. So they took a slight loss there, all right? But also, let's think about what we want to do. Do we want to wait for it to hit the bottom? And chances are enjoy it after someone else has already realized the value. I personally am okay with buying slightly above, getting on the train, predicting it, enjoying it, because you have 2 or 3 years that go by when you're driving something that you don't see a lot of. Now, let's talk about how this equates to what's going on with the Emira. I personally think the Evora is a good buy now and a few years ago, but I also believe that the Emira is the best iteration of this car yet. And if they keep going at this rate, I think that that equilibrium of 50% margin or 50% drop in loss in value might creep up a little bit. So what's that look like for the Emira market? These cars currently sell for 100,000 MSRP plus, and they do have 2 different engine models now. So that's gonna vary in price as well. And I have another point on that to make. In the past, these cars have had base models and then higher level trims. For instance, on the Evora, they had the 2+2, which was like their base model, and then they had the Evora GT. Now the Evora GT, which is sick, carbon bucket seats, you don't see that in cars under 100,000 miles. But my point is, they have different models or iterations of the model, which is going to give you a better buy for the base model. So for instance, if we look at now, right, we see a base model here of the Lotus Emira for 104,000 mile or $104,000 with 556 miles. So a brand new car selling for 104,000 miles. Now, if these cars take off the way I think they're going to take off and they come out with different iterations, I believe that these cars are going to be great buy around the 5 to 6 year mark for the, I think sub 60,000 would be a great purchase price. But let's be honest, at the end of the day, it's a Lotus. It's nothing to write home about, but I do believe bang for the buck, if you're valuing that and also valuing unique factor, this is going to be a great car to buy in 5 years. Let me know if you agree and if you like this kind of video. If you do, my car knowledge is crazy and I'll be happy to show you guys some more and also hopefully get my hands on them. So if you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe, please like, and I'll see you in the next one.